So for those of you that are new, uh, what Sarah and I are doing is we're creating a story live right before your eyes, and we're doing it with no prep or anything.
So, to that point, I guess for tonight's creative session, do you want to do something that goes within the door universe? Do we want to do something different? What's your feeling on that? I've got a bunch of ideas, but I'd love to know kind of what mood you're in, where your head's at.
Well, if you've noticed, you're seeing a little black screen there. Uh,
Mhm.
Normally you'd see something white, but I'm going to go with black.
Okay, well, with that in mind, because that's actually interesting to sort of do it the opposite way, I think we should do something that falls in line with like a grim fairy tale.
So what now? If we're coming up with a story idea, we're doing something like based off of like a grim fairy tale, or are we just going to um, uh, come up with like our own character? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think we should come up with our own character and then maybe come up with their story, right?
Okay. So I'm trying to think of like that era, which is I believe Grimm's fairy tales. Were they early 19th century? Was that like around like 1830 somewhere, or a little bit before that even? Um,
Yeah. hmm And a
okay.
lot of the ones that we all know well today, have been sanitized, cleaned up, smiled upon, but they all kind of were based in stories from that time. And a lot of the characters, the villains, have come straight out of that universe.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to be drawing people that are of a certain time and era,
Mhm.
and I'm because I'm working in black first. It kind of creates like more of a nudie nights type of
Mhm.
element to it. So, maybe there's um, like what are the things that could be taking place at night that we can like something dark, something kind of sinister maybe. This is like a Grimm's fairy tale after all, right? So something that
Yeah.
isn't like
Well, I think the idea of like something being stolen at night, just from even the way this character moves, it almost looks like they're a bit of a thief in the night, kind of a feel. And I feel like that is very much in line with like the grim fairy tales, which is the protect this because at nightfall the evil things come for you. And this kind of feels like a character who would sneak in and steal whatever the item is and, when we talked about Rumpelstiltskin, that's, like the straw into gold and stuff. So it could be something that seems like a simple item, but in this particular universe is incredibly valuable, and gives this villain power of some kind.
Okay, so do you think I'm kind of going with like a Laurel and Hardy type duo
Mhm.
here? So maybe they're very inept thieves, and they don't exactly maybe they've been hired for something, and they don't really know like what they've gotten here.
Yeah. Well, that could be it. They've been told to steal these things, but they don't actually know the power. It's like that other super evil character in the castle who is sending out the minions to do the bidding in order to bring back what they need. Um, and again, it could be even they have a list of things, right? Like it's almost like a magic potion that they have to collect these things from the villagers during the night in order to complete this potion. And maybe even to expand on that, if they steal something from you, you're now affected by whatever this potion is, right? So it's like you become part, you get sucked into it. That's why you have to protect your house from these two kind of inept characters, because if they steal something from you, you're now cursed.
Right. So and now do they even realize what they have? Like, what's the
I don't think so. I almost feel like they've just been there. They just want to complete their mission to impress the evil king or sorcerer. They don't understand it. They just know what they're supposed to do. So they just know they're supposed to get it, and the villagers don't know necessarily what it will do to them, just that if something is stolen during the night, they're cursed or they will disappear or something bad will happen to them.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm as I'm going here, I'm kind of trying to figure out like what would the composition best look like to make it dynamic. So I'm
Mhm.
going a so in the past we've done single image
Yep.
that was really more iconic, like two characters posing. And
Mhm.
then we've done with something that was a little bit more of a sequential story. And then last week we did a little bit more of a compositional thing. So I kind of feel like that's what I'm doing here. What we did last week, where I'm focusing on uh, a story being told in a composition, and so because of that, I want to make sure whatever I'm doing has a really interesting look to it. Like the elements of these two characters stealing something are just the way they're posing, right? Like the one that you got it right away, leaning over, the other one maybe uh, carrying the lion's share of whatever it is that they're doing. And so you asked, what do we want to do something that's in that universe? Well, maybe dude's holding to the clock.
Ooh, and maybe that's exactly it. Maybe the things that they are stealing are things that this evil villain, this sorcerer is using to create this spell that does create this door. Maybe that villain thinks that the door is actually some kind of a portal, some kind of magic, some kind of like transportation,
Oh.
something really special, and doesn't realize what he's actually unlocking by finishing the spell. Um, yeah, I think again, even when we're not trying to, things keep coming back to the main story. But we had sort of talked about, in a way, sort of this, grim fairy tale aspect to the broken clock story and the boy and looking for the things, that this is almost that, how did that clock get there in the first place? Maybe this was how.
Well, what's really interesting about just that suggestion you made, uh, even or just when you were like, okay, so is this going to be in that universe? I'm like, I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it, but then you start talking about like, okay, so the things that they steal have a repercussion upon the people that like they've stolen it from, right? That there's some kind of like uh, uh, a curse put upon them. Well, that would very easily, what if they actually put, instead of actually taking something, what if they're putting something there, like the clock, right? So the clock, all of a sudden, these objects appear in these people's homes and they can't get rid of
Oh, I love that, because it could be like if you wake up and one of these things are in your home, that means you're the next one to be cursed by this, right? And it could be the clock, it could be a mirror, there could be a whole bunch of objects that maybe this villain sorcerer curses and then sends the minions out into the town to place them around. And then it could be like the sorcerer is waiting to see what happens. Right? It's like little making little guinea pigs out of the townspeople to see what happens with these objects to finally figure out which is the right object, which is the one that actually unlocks the proper portal or the correct door that gets, the riches or the power. And once these are out into the world, they just keep spreading, almost like that disease, right? The clock keeps getting passed from house to house, like the people see it in the morning and, want to give it to the neighbor to get rid of it or something. There's something interesting to them dropping off instead of stealing.
yeah, and also there could be different elements of what happens to somebody when they put these objects or a door into somebody's home. So, for example, like the door itself could be, um, as you said, a portal to getting into their home, right? And they can't, no matter what they do, they can't open it. But on the other side, they can be opened, right? Or the clock does has a different kind of like nefarious power that
Hmm.
um I don't know what it would be, but it would act differently. So and to your point, it could be that even if like we can even say that the evil wizard or the mage or whatever that's doing these things, imbuing these objects with like powers, may not even understand what they're doing. They may
Hmm.
just they could also be like inept in some ways, and so they're like, okay, I just created this new thing, imbued with this clock. It seemed to work this time.
Yeah.
Put it to the home of the vicar or some, like some powerful person in the
Yes.
town, and we'll see what happens. And they won't know until they actually put it in there and try to do something. So, and for them, it's also a risk because they don't know what if the clock speeds things up for them, what if it slows things down, what if it works against them, what if it works for them. They don't actually know. So maybe the first thing they the door works for them the one time they did it and it wouldn't work again. So they're like, okay, we have to find other objects. What else can we do? So there could be a bit more of a complicated kind of like
Well, and maybe
uh,
there's a certain person who's able to open the door, right? And maybe
right.
the the mage, the wizard, or whatever is putting it in this clock in different people's houses to try and find the one, right? The one person that is able to actually open this door to the benefits of it, right? Where it's
Mm,
not this, terrible, scary, whatever place. There is, legend has it that there is one person in the village who has the power to open and go through the door to this other realm or something like that. It could also be that maybe different objects have different powers, right? Like maybe the mirror is enchanted with something that they put it in someone's house and allows them to see the future, or there is like some other objects that have different things, and he's basically guinea pigging it out on the different people in the village to see what happens when they actually use these items, right? Like it could be a really interesting layered thing of this whole mythology that then ends up being this clock in the door that keep going forward through time.
right. And so there could be that the protagonist, like the boy in our the sequential page you did with the clock,
Hmm.
it, that there's something that calls them right to the object. So in the case of the these bumbling thieves who are really not thieves, and so I mean they are thieves, but they're literally putting something into somebody's home,
Yeah.
hoping that the person they put the whoever's home they put it into will actually something will happen, and they don't know if it's maybe the one time the with the door they were so if the door is a portal to their where they live and they're able to like get in one time there was a kid that actually opened the door to like so there could be a whole story there where like the boy essentially found all these things that they had been stolen from the town and took them back and then the they found out that the kid did this but they didn't know who the kid was and so they locked the other side but that was the only way that they could prevent the boy from ever coming back in is by locking it. That means they can't get access to it ever again either, because there could be guards now on the other side of the door waiting for them, right? So,
Yes, absolutely. Or maybe even the wizard came through the door, right? Thinking he discovered this portal, and then whoever's on the other side locked him in, and now he's trying to find the way back because that door is no longer usable because it's been locked. And
um,
wants to get back to that other world, and that's where it's like these magical objects are teleportation things, and it's like put these in other people's homes, maybe we can sneak it out, right? Like they don't know it's me, so maybe the vicar, like you said, will be able to open it because he's pure and good, and they'll let him through, and then I can go through the door as well. It's amazing from this one image. There's so many directions we could take this. And I mean, that's kind of what a fairy tale is, right? It's this mythology that has these layers underneath it.
yeah. And I'm also thinking like, there's a world where this isn't as dark as we're saying it is. There could be a world where this is a little bit more on the Disney-esque side, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and if we decide to lean into the more grim version of it, then yeah, then it could be like a super creepy, more on the side of like Nightmare Before Christmas, like some
Mhm.
kind of stop motion, that kind of a vibe to it. Uh Tim Burton style, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because the immediate movie that's coming to mind was a recent, one of Disney's, which was Wish, right? Where the basic plot of that was the king was stealing people's wishes for
oh
himself, sort of a thing. And this is almost like a simple except for instead of stealing them, he's putting them into other people's places to see if maybe he can use one of them to get what he wants. Um, I think that these characters too being kind of bumbling is also really entertaining because it adds that softness to it. It makes it a little less dark just because these guys are slightly inept, which from a fairy tale point of view softens it a little bit too.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's all different possibilities in regards to um, how dark you want to make it. I mean, you have the Secrets of Nim, which always scared me as a kid, or Watership Down, or whatever. One of those types of stories where the creatures the animals are there's actual repercussions, real world repercussions, right? So, and you see them. And that was I think that was a bigger difference between Disney and those types of movies or like stories where the characters are not safe, that they could actually have a serious issue, right?
Absolutely. You weren't protected by the fact that nothing bad was ever gonna happen to anybody, right? There was always that feeling like this could go very badly. There wasn't that safety net that Disney always keeps underneath you, right? Other than the fact they kill off every mother, but besides that, everybody else is usually pretty okay. Um, what I was thinking of was one of my childhood favorites, which was Return to Oz. And I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but it was right up there in the creepy level for kids. It had Mombi, who was a sorceress who would remove her head and change it out for a different head depending on the look she wanted to wear, which for a children's movie is intense. You're walking down a hall of heads and she takes her head off, puts a different head on. So I think again, like that level of creepy is something you can dial in and out as you're doing these things and decide sort of where on the spectrum we fit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, one of the things I'm kind of thinking about right at this very moment is lighting. Like, where's the light coming from? It's really important to figure these things out early on, just because that will give you the idea of like, okay, how is the composition going to form if the light source is coming from a certain direction? Like we have these windows here, right? And so I want to make sure now I know, okay, we're going to see some aspects of his face, the one in the one in the behind the bigger one looking down, right? So we're going to hopefully see some aspects of their face, but then also I'm just trying to go, okay, well, then if that's the case, how do we see the other one's face? And maybe there's like a candle or something, or a couple of candles that are being lit by like, could, who knows what it could be, like a candelabra or a torch or something just in the wall, right? So that way, I can make sure that I know how to form the characters and create the textures and all that kind of stuff because I have an understanding where the light is.
Yes, for sure. And even just looking at the composition of those windows, where they are feels almost like there's some opportunities, right? Like, are they down some kind of like a hallway tunnel type of thing, right? Where there's some light coming in and there's buildings in the background. Are they in a tower? Are they in somebody's home, right? Like the windows give a really interesting exterior story as to where they could be. It almost feels like they're sort of heading almost like secret tunnel maybe isn't the right word, but almost looks like they're kind of coming into the town from an area that comes out of the castle, below and comes out into the city so they can kind of
Right.
sneakily get out there. So you have sort of the light of the moon sort of shining in on them and those kind of a couple of candles that they keep there just to be able to find their way out, which again adds to that sort of mystery.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's possible then he's like holding this light so that he can actually
Mhm.
see what's down there. Maybe they're in the catacombs or something like that.
Yeah, that's kinda what it feels like they're almost, like, coming out of them, and then that sort of the city's lit in the background, just, like, again, from, like, the moon or just those few light sources, and then he's holding the candle to sort of find their way out that's illuminating his face.
Yeah. So for people that are joining us here, in regards to me using black on white here, uh, you can see the majority of the image right now or the composition is still in black, right? And I'm just really sculpting out the the white line to figure out, as I said, where the light is coming from, right? I could do this the opposite way as well, and it would probably, I eventually get to something similar to this, but this way, what happens with this is that you start to think about light a little bit more directly than, let's say, if you were to do it the other way.
Yeah, and I do think that having the black as the base is kind of, probably what keeps leading me into creepy, right? Because it's more black than white. So it feels more shadowy, more dark, more suspicious, which lends itself to that feeling that these two are up to no good, right? That they're bumbling, but there's also a nefarious undertone to their bumbliness. They're sidekicks, but they're not well intentioned sidekicks. They're not trying to help. They're trying to, get their next paycheck, abide their master, that kind of thing, which gives a neat texture to the story.
Yeah. Well, it puts you there much faster,